please stand for the national anthem. We will now have a prayer from Ms. Arlene Solomon Ramesa, Counselor.
Thank you. Let us bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, as we come before you this afternoon, we pray thy blessings and guidance upon each and every one. We pray that you continue to strengthen our country by its extension our Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, our ministers in government, our councillors, and all those who serve the people. We pray that this afternoon, our deliberations will be a very fruitful one, and our contributions at large will be extended towards the budget consultation to ensure that we continue to serve the people and the best of our abilities. Amen.
You may have your seats. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this pre-budget consultation. We're honored to have with us our own Member of Parliament, Mr. Barry Padarath, and the Minister of Public Utilities, of course. Also, we have with us the Member of Parliament for Barataria Sarwa, Mr. Saddam Hosein, and the Minister of Legal Affairs. Firstly, we'll have Member of Parliament, Mr. Barry Padarath, speaking.
Good evening, everyone. Allow me to recognize my colleague in the Parliament and in the Cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Minister of Legal Affairs and a very good friend of mine, MP Saddam Hosein. Thank you, Saddam, for joining us in Couva South. Allow me to also recognize our councillors from the Couva Tabaki Talpara Regional Corporation. I would want to recognize them individually. As I often say, they are the unsung heroes who get a lot of the buff and hardly any praise, but work very hard nonetheless. I want to recognize the counselor, and that is none other than Sharon Badal Ayu. Counselor, thank you. A man who is no stranger to any of us here in Couva South, that is Counselor Rajbal. Rajbal, thank you for joining us. Very quiet and unassuming, but very hardworking is none other than Councillor Gangaram Gopal. And everybody knows Taxi. But this afternoon, I want to recognize our own councillor, Alan Taxi Sipasad. Thank you. A sister who's joined us over the past couple of years, but has done tremendous work, and that is none other than Vanessa Kusi. You heard earlier from Councillor Arlene Solomon Ramesa. I want to thank Arlene for her continued hard work. This afternoon, we also have members of the constituency executive of Couva South and a few people who are no strangers to any of us who may not be on the executive, but they come from the constituency of Couva South, highly qualified and competent, none other than the chairman of WASA, Mr. Roshan Babwa, attorney at law. You heard from young Daniel Nanku, who's on the board of the National Maintenance Training Services, NMTS. Joining us this evening is the chairman of MTS, and that is Mr. Adrian Baran. Our alderman from the Couva Tabiki Talpar Regional Corporation also joining us, Alderman Anil Kamal. Several representatives and members across the government sector. I see the chairman of the Couva South Constituency Executive, Mr. Sharma Suknanan. All our activists, burgesses, constituents, thank you for turning out in your numbers this evening. I'm so very gratified to address you as your member of parliament in my first budget consultation in the constituency of Couva South. This has been an annual exercise under the leadership and guidance of the Honorable Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Prime Minister. Not only when she became the Prime Minister, but we have been doing this for all of the years that we have serving you, whether it's inside of government or outside of government. So in her absence, I would really like to recognize and thank the Honorable Prime Minister for her vision for having these budget consultations. The consultations are less to hear from your members of parliament, your ministers of government, but more so to hear from you. And I say that in the context that in a few weeks' time, the national budget will be presented. Usually it's at the end of September, sometime at the first 2 weeks of October. The date for the national budget has not been announced just as yet, but as of now, you can see where your government is going in terms of the expenditure side, in terms of the projects, and in terms of the things that we promised you on the campaign trail as it relates to the business of state. For every single thing in this country, whether it is to buy a bottle of water, to pay a taxi, to purchase land, every single thing requires it to be budgeted. We in Couva South have had, for many years, the experience of geographical discrimination, where we have grown accustomed, prior to April 28, 2025, of not having the basic things like water in this constituency. Many parts, whether it's from the areas of Central Park to Bicaro to Dow Village, many parts of the constituency experience water problems, despite the fact that the industrial estate resides in the constituency of Couva South, where the Salcott is housed, but yet we don't receive the type of service that we should be receiving. I'm happy to say that post-April 28, the water situation in this constituency and many of the other constituencies have changed. And while I recognize a lot more has to be done, a lot of work has started, but it requires your government to have the political will to do so. And therefore, a lot of what you are seeing happening in Couva South is also happening on the east-west corridor. It is also happening on the eastern coast. So it is not UNC held constituencies. It is constituencies across length and breadth of the country where we recognize that the people of Couva South are just as important as the people on the corridor. The people of the corridor are just as important as the people in South and Central Trinidad. And that is how we intend on governing, based on the needs of our population, regardless of who you are, where you come from, and what you look like. Now, we've just come in, and many persons are asking, well, we want our roads fixed because the roads have been so bad. We want medicine in the hospitals. We want water in our taps. We want our children to have laptops. We have spoken to you in the coming financial year, which starts in October, thereabout. What are some of the key priorities? The Prime Minister has articulated, several frontline ministers have articulated where our vision and our priorities will be in terms of the expenditure side of the budget. And therefore, the mandate of these budget consultations is for you to hear from you so that we are able to shape the policy and the expenditure of the next financial year from October 2025 to September 2026. And therefore, I ask of you to bear in mind that your administration came in 3 short months ago. But we came in against a backdrop where every sector in the country has collapsed. Everywhere you go, the place is dilapidated. The bridges have collapsed in this country. The highways are in a state of disrepair. The roadways, the carriageways, the schools, the hospitals, the police stations, everywhere you go over the last 10 years, the infrastructure of the country has been left to collapse. And that is physical infrastructure. Then you come to social infrastructure in terms of the social sector. The programs that are available there, whether it's medication in the hospital, that too comes with some level of social support where you have CDAP. But a lot of the medication that used to be available through CDAP is no longer there. Then you have the challenge of the grants, where they told you if you're receiving a public assistance grant, you cannot get a food card. And that was a policy of the last administration. Now, for many of you, I'm seeing you shaking your heads because you know it, you live it. If you receive a public assistance grant of $2,000 and you have a rent to pay of $2,500 per month, first, how you are achieving the additional $500 that you need to pay the rent? Then how you're providing for food, utilities, etc. The Minister of Social Development has spoken to the Cabinet, and we are reviewing these things. So therefore, I ask you, I know while it must be difficult, the challenges that you are enduring right now, it's not a situation where it is an easy fix, because the government have to identify where the funding is coming from. And that is why I told you, from a bottle of water to a piece of land, every single line item, you have to identify where the funding is coming from. So I ask of you this evening to be realistic in terms of your approach, at least in the first year. This is going to be our first budget cycle come October. And I know many of you have been raising the issue of CPEP, URP, reforestation. The Honorable Prime Minister spoke about that last night. The Commissioner of Police is on public record, and the Prime Minister always tells us, if you do not have life, you can enjoy nothing. So you could have all the CPEP, you could have all the URP and all the reforestation, but if you're not alive, then you can't enjoy those jobs. But the Commissioner of Police has said very frontally that the criminal elements in these programs are fueling the levels of crime that we are seeing across the length and breadth of this country. And therefore, when you elected us on April 28th, you elected us to do things differently. And therefore, when some of you are saying to us, well, we want back the CPEP and we want back the URP and so on, you have to contextualize that. And contextualizing it means that if we go back down the same road as the PNM did by hiring friends, financiers, and family within these programs, you keep the criminals in there, then you have to continue living in these self-imposed jails because these contracts are fueling criminality and crime in the country. And therefore, if you want to get to the root cause of the crime, then you have to target where the funding is coming from. So I'm asking you to take into consideration what we are sharing with you, not being ignorant to the fact, the government that is, that you too have needs. You too are looking for jobs. You too are looking for where your next meal is coming from. You too are looking for medication in the hospitals, the social security grants, etc. And therefore, what we are saying to you as a responsible government who has voted in a large mandate, we are saying to you, yes, we came in with plans, programs, and policies, but we must do so within the framework of a government that has been saddled with a $9 billion deficit. And therefore, I am seeing, Saddam, where there are elements in the media and other spaces, including some of the unions, not all of the unions, but querying about wage bills and all of that. Rome was not built in a day, and I don't think anybody who voted for us expected that we got into government today, that all the problems in the country would be fixed. We inherited $9 billion in deficit. We inherited the largest data as it relates to crime, murders, home invasions, and therefore to operationalize a lot of what we spoke about will require budgeting. It will require money. And therefore, I'm asking you within our first year, let us be realistic. What are our basic needs? Our basic needs, as far as I see it, is first, security. How do we prioritize our budgeting with respect to security? Many of you spoke about the things like comfort control in terms of the patrols that used to exist when we were there 2010 to 2015. You spoke to us about the rapid response. You spoke to us about the cameras. You spoke to us about police vehicles. So when the Prime Minister is telling you our stand, your ground legislation, home invasion legislation, Saddam is reminding me about the easier access to FULs. Those are things that operate within a framework, and we have had no honeymoon period. When the government, the former administration, the population divorced themselves from the PNM, they gave us no honeymoon and we asked for no honeymoon. We were able to go into ministries and start getting the job done. Another thing I'd ask Saddam to talk to you about has to do with the issue of the Carney lands that impacts Couva South tremendously. The Prime Minister has appointed Saddam to work specifically in addressing the issue of the Carney lands and the Carney issues. And I can tell you, this is a minister who works 24/7, like some of us, to get these things done. He may share some of what he has to roll out very soon. But as I said, let's be realistic. First, national security. Secondly, things that impact you every single day of your lives. Fortunately, I always say public utilities is one of the areas. When you open your taps inside of your house, you expect water. When you switch on the light, you expect electricity. When you pick up your phone, you expect connectivity. Slowly, it is happening. I know it is an improvement. It is not where we want to be. But I assure you, we are intent on fixing the problems, as the Prime Minister said. We will fix it. But we must tell you what we inherited, what we are experiencing, and what we intend to do about it. That's the second element. The third element is works on infrastructure. Major infrastructure. I know Calcutta has been talking about that road. I can assure you that that road will be paved. I spoke with the Minister of Works and Infrastructure. She is working assiduously. And like many other areas within the constituency, I know you have those challenges of infrastructure as well. But a lot more of those things will be rolled out come October. So I have given you a broad framework. The only one I would like to add again has to do with education and job creation. Education in terms of the laptop program. We are intent. I am part of a ministerial committee, myself, Minister of Education, Minister of Public Administration, with respect to ensuring that in the first term that the majority of laptops are delivered to our nation's children. We are going to ensure that it is not only a physical laptop, but their textbooks will be uploaded onto these laptops, taking that burden off of parents with respect to the textbook component. There will be the AI component. The Prime Minister has mandated. And you know, just a few days ago, the Honorable Prime Minister was once more re-elected unopposed as the political leader of the United National Congress. And I want to say on behalf of all of Couva South residents, Burgesses, the executive, how very happy we are to throw our full support behind the Honorable Prime Minister. The vision of the Prime Minister for that laptop program was also to ensure that we upload a component that when the child takes the laptop at home, you could apply for your birth certificate, you can apply for your passport, you could apply to register a small business. All government services will be at your fingertips because it will now be available in the laptop at home. That's the vision the Prime Minister has with the issue of job and job creation. When I first became the minister with responsibility for CPEP, I told you, this government's vision is not for you to cut grass for all the days of your life. It has to be, when the program was first conceptualized, that we will utilize the program as a transition program. From 2002, it never met its original mandate for that to happen. And therefore, what we are looking at, and it is an active discussion that is happening among the cabinet and others, to see how do you create sustainable jobs, utilizing some of the funding, utilizing the same state sector. Listen, Saddam will tell you, I will tell you, we inherited the same public servants. And the things that they could not do in 10 years, we are getting done in 2 and 3 months, utilizing the same public servants. It is management, it is leadership, it is political will to get it done. So therefore, I'm asking of you to consider what is the long-term solution to the problems that you are facing in terms of job creation. Our vision for you is not for you and your children to cut and rake grass for the rest of their lives. It must be that we must create sustainable jobs in the spheres of agriculture, in the spheres of artificial intelligence, technology. It cannot be that we are myopic and we are telling you, well, we're happy that you all will just continue to do like the PNM and turn up in public meetings in your yellow jersey and then cut grass for 2 hours in the morning. No. The Prime Minister has a long-term vision for where she wants your children to be in the future. Our children cannot be left behind while the world continues to progress. And therefore, a lot of these things we will flesh out, we will ventilate. I know some of you have specific things to raise, but I would want to pass on and introduce a colleague I'm very proud of inside and outside of the Parliament. I was the youngest member of Parliament in the 11th Parliament. Today, he's the youngest member of Parliament and probably one of the youngest ministers of government, and he's doing a tremendous job. And I want to thank him for agreeing to address us this evening. And I want to tell him we are already booking you for the Stand Your Ground consultation next week, and we'll share some more about that. So ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, put your hands together for one of the most dynamic members of our government, MP, Minister Saddam Hosein.
Thank you very much to my brother, MP Barry Padarath, the Honorable Barry Padarath, Minister of Public Utilities and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister. And sometimes I wish I could move into Couva South. You have one of the best members of Parliament in Trinidad and Tobago. And one of the bravest, most courageous ministers of government that today sits in the Parliament and the Cabinet, led by Kamala Persad-Bissessar. I want to firstly thank the constituents of Couva South for inviting me this evening to address you on this pre-budget consultation. And you have turned out in your hundreds here this evening. Give yourselves a round of applause. And what that signals to me is that you care about your country. You all tonight stand as patriots to ensure that this Kamala Persad-Bissessar-led government ensures that we continue to serve the people, serve the people, serve the people. Would you believe 2 days ago, it was only 2 days ago, that we have won, it made 3 months since we won the general election of 2025. 3 months. 3 months. This is what we did in 3 months. We passed the Prime Minister's Amendment Pension Bill. Do you remember that? You remember that? We repealed the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, saving thousands of jobs. You know what we also did? And this was something that was advocated by your Member of Parliament. We passed amendments to the Children's Life Fund so more children will be able to access life-saving surgeries. We appointed a substantive commissioner of police. We extended the state of emergency just a couple days ago to ensure that we protect our government from the rogue criminal elements and criminal syndicates. I sit on a committee in this country called the National Security Council. And the Thursday evening after Cabinet, we were briefed by the Commissioner of Police and the Chief of Defense Staff. That committee was chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister. And when you hear the chilling facts and the intelligence that were presented to us as the National Security Council, we had no choice. The Prime Minister had no choice but to take decisive, courageous, and swift action to ensure that we dismantle that criminal syndicate that was a threat to national security in this country. You all don't understand the magnitude of the threat. And then I hear the opposition bawling, why are they want an extension? Why are they calling a SOE? When they were drunk in December last year, having a party the night they called the SOE, why didn't ask themselves that question? Where Penny was when that was happening? Where Penny was? We ensured that we stayed in the diplomatic center and had proper briefings. We did not make a decision by the bar or by the pool. We made a decision in the diplomatic center after proper briefing and intelligence reports presented to the government. And that is what we did in 3 months. Right now, as Barry mentioned, we have stand your ground legislation being being out for consultation throughout the length and breadth of this country. And what we are saying is that while we are giving you the right to stand your ground against the criminals, you can't stand the ground with a bill now. You have to have the weapon to stand your ground. So we will also ensure that we make access to firearm users' license easier for deserving, competent members of the public so that you can protect yourselves, your family, and your property from criminal danger. Can you imagine that this country were faced with criminals who invaded your homes, came into your home, killing you, robbing, raping your family, stealing your hard-earned money, and there was not an offense on the book called a home invasion offense? This government is creating an offense of home invasion. And if any criminal take God out of their thought and kill someone while in the act of home invasion, the sentence will be death. Will be death. Why must a man, after he takes out a criminal in his home, have to go to the police and explain why I shoot the man? Is that fair? That could never be fair. It must be the criminal explaining why he's coming in your home. That is why we are giving you that opportunity to stand your ground against the criminals. And while we are giving you the right to stand your ground, I can segue into this point now. You must have a piece of land to stand your ground on, correct? And this government, under the direction and leadership of Kamala Persad-Bissessar, has given me a particular mandate, which is to ensure that we deliver the lands to the ex-Caroni workers. I can tell you that I have been a minister less than 3 months. We have been in government. We won the election for about 3 months. And in about 2 weeks, we will be giving out the first tranches of residential leases to ex-Caroni workers. Something that the last administration could not have done in 10 years, we are doing in 3 months. We are doing it in 3 months. Because you know what they were doing? There's a company called the EMBDC. That is the company by law that was charged with the responsibility for developing the lands and lotting out the lands to allocate for the ex-Caroni workers. the residential VSEP lots. They were pushing hundreds of millions of dollars into that company, not to fix the land, not to build road or box train or put water or lights for the land, You know what they were doing? They were paying big shot lawyers $50, $60, $70, $80, $90, $100 million in legal fees out of the EMBDC. That is why they could not deliver these lots. But a Kamla Prasad-Bissessar-led administration will ensure that the ex-Caroni workers get their residential lots. And those in Couva South, we have a development right here in Couva South that is coming soon. That is coming soon. Then I want to get to an area that the Prime Minister and your minister touched briefly. Under the Ministry of Land, Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, there's this program they call the Reforestation Program. They talk about CPEP, and you have the URP. And they're going around saying that 10,000 jobs are lost. You all hearing that? But when you check, did they count the ghosts? Because those programs have ghosts in them. They have ghosts in them. What we are looking at right now in the review is what was taking place with these programs. And I can speak tonight on the Reforestation Program because that falls within the Ministry of Agriculture. On my research, the PNM makes it sound as though that this reforestation program was a permanent program in Trinidad and Tobago. Do you know it was not? Do you know this was a temporary program? In the year 2003, by Cabinet Minute number 2936 of November 20th, 2003, it was agreed for the establishment of the National Reforestation and Watershed Rehabilitation Program for a period of 10 years as a unit of the Ministry of Public Utilities and the Environment with a mandate to increase the rate of forest regeneration. So that's 10 years the program was agreed for by the cabinet. They didn't say it's permanent, a 10-year program. Fast forward now to the year 2014, October 2nd, 2014, Cabinet Minute number 2774. They extended the program by another 3 years. So the program, and then it was further extended in 2016 for another 3 years. So altogether, the program was extended for between the period 2017 to 2020. So from 2003, we got a 10-year, and then they did some subsequent years. So the program was extended to the year 2020. To date, there has been no further extension of the program. So it's running on basically a year to year, right? But what is even more interesting is that I found an audit report done not by us, but by the PNM. The Ministry of Finance, through the Central Audit Committee, did a particular audit on this program, and the report is dated February 2018. And this is what the audit report says, and this was confirmed by a Cabinet Minute number 776, 17th of May 2018. And this is what it says. With respect to the mandate of the Audit Committee, due to the lack of information and the inability of the program staff to provide adequate explanations to questions raised, the cumulative achievements of the program could not be ascertained. Also, the Central Audit Committee was unable to verify the accuracy of the information provided by the reforestation program or to ascertain the veracity of the statements made by the program staff. The findings stated and conclusions drawn were based only on the information provided by this program. And these are the key findings. So basically what they're saying is that they went in there to audit this program. The staff don't know what's happening. They have no records really of what is happening. This is in 2018. And these are the findings of the program. The program has expended approximately $843 million from its inception until 2017. You hear that? That is 2018. Eh? They have spent $843 million on that program up to 2018. What year are we in? 2025. So we cross $1 billion on this program. However, after all this money is spent, this is what the cabinet note is saying. The actual achievements of the program could not be determined due to the absence of accurate, verifiable information. So you know what that means? They can't find the tree where they plant. It sounds comical, but that's the truth of the matter. This program was established for reforestation. This is what it says. The total acreage reforested from inception to the end of fiscal 2017, so 2003 to 2017, was estimated by the committee to be 7,714 acres. The program's mandate of reforestation was 33,030 acres. So you understand what that means? They spent over $1 billion and they're supposed to reforest over 33,000 acres of land. And you know how much they end up reforesting? 7,700. After over $1 billion have now been spent on that program. Could you understand that? And now, what we discovered is that on the eve of the general election, which was the Friday before the general election, there were 80 long-term contracts for a 3-year period. Do you know what they did? They went and renewed all of those contracts before they expired for a further 3 years. And they hired 47 smaller contractors for a short-term period. All came in on the 14th of April or so, before the 14th of April, that's 2 weeks before the general election. And you know what we found? We found that councillors in the San Fernando City Corporation were given contracts. We find friends and families of the PNM members given contracts. But this government is committed to ensuring that we reverse what the PNM has done with respect to this program. We are ensuring that we stamp out the corruption and bring back these particular issues to its proper moorings. You all agree with that? But tonight I tell them I'm not coming here to bust no mark. But I need to tell all you something. I need to tell all you something. This reforestation program is plenty bacchanal. And I'll tell you why I say so. At the ministry, I often ask for updates and briefs on these programs. Then one day, information reached my attention that the reforestation program, which is managed through the RDC, discovered that 7 files relating to the payment of contractors went missing. Files gone missing at the reforestation program. I am told, and I do have parliament privilege here, I am told that the last time those files were seen were in the possession of 2 particular members of staff. I am told that an investigation has now been launched into the matter. Those 2 members of staff have been placed on suspension or administrative leave pending an internal investigation, and 1 member of staff happened to be a sister of a sitting opposition MP who was a former government minister. Those are the facts that were presented to me. I cast no aspersion. Those are the facts that was presented to me as one of the line ministers in that reforestation program. So you understand what is happening here, brothers and sisters? Do you all understand what is happening? So this government, as I said, we are committed to transparency, accountability, and good governance. And this document here, in my hand, I walk with it every meeting I go on talking. You know why? Because this manifesto document of 2025 has been adopted by the cabinet as official government policy. So I think you heard enough from me. I would like to hear from you now. So I thank you all very much for the warm welcome, and we look forward to the floor being open and you contribute to today's proceedings. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, ministers. Now we will open the floor for any feedback and suggestions. We have a mic strategically placed to the center of the aisle here. When you're coming up to give your suggestions and feedback, could you state your name? Also, we'll be limiting the feedback to 2 minutes just to give everyone time, everyone the chance to provide that feedback. Thank you.
A pleasant good afternoon to each and every one of you, and all protocols observed. My name is Rajkumar Rampasad. I'm president of the Exchange Farmers Association, where we cultivate the 2-acre lands within Couva South, Couva North, and all of that. And we have a couple of concerns. We have written to the Minister of Agriculture, and now we are hearing that the MP is also on board, so we'll send a copy to you also. All right, and in the past, the Carney 2-acre lands have been vastly underutilized, right? Less than 10% at one point in time was planted. We have given out, and they have given out about 7,700 plus 2-acre plots, right? There are 17 agricultural sites within the country. At the Exchange Farmers Association, we would like to see increased cultivation on the 2-acre lands, right? And at one time, we had partnered with the Arangwes United Farmers Association and planted over 200 acres. And through that partnership with the United Arangwes Farmers Association, we were able to form Carney Green Limited, right? That's as a spin-off from that, right? But we would like to see an organized system where the lands are fully utilized, right? And it could be done. That's the first thing. The second thing is, we'd like to see the setting up of an organic farm, right? With proper buffer areas and buffer strip with clean water. There are some areas within the Carney lands, you have spring, so that would be clean water. And we had a group prior to the giving out of the Carney lands. We had a group in 2003 where we had approached the government and the then chairman of Carney Limited, Mr. Jerry Hospitalis, for lands to set up the organic farm. And that came up in the budget with the PNM. Mr. Manning had said, same year, that they would set up an organic farm. We see that as something, self-sustaining, viable, safe, healthy food, and where we could, have the consumers eat, good quality food, right? The next thing we have that we're having some challenges with is predial larceny, right? I won't speak much of that. And then our next problem is some stray cattle that we have. We have the stray cattle damaging a lot of the farmers within the exchange area, right? We have reported it to the Couva police and to the predial larceny squad. And we are waiting further action because little or nothing has been done, right? And then there's two other points. The upgrading of the roads and the infrastructure within the Carney lands. And finally, we are having a problem with the giant African snails in some area, right? So that's just a few of the points. I want to be within my 2 minutes, and we want to be like Guyana, who is self-sufficient in food. And also I want to say that in Israel, which is one of the top producers, all the service providers and the farmers, they put a part in their budget, to do research and development. Everybody contributes to that. And they're one of the top producers. So I want to thank you all.
Yeah, anybody else?
Well, let me talk. You want to talk for me, Chairman? Ministers? No, don't, hold on. I just settled myself. I am Puran Ramlal from Couva. My first topic is the question of the value of the dollar. Cayman Islands is 120 to 1. Kayaku, Grenada is 250 to 1. Why are we sticking our dollar 7 to 1? Why can't we make it like Barbados 2 to 1? I would like Cabinet to look at that. There are a lot of pros and cons for it. Cost of living, for example, will drop. $10 billion of food is imported in this country. You could save that from the contribution my friend next door, which has to be modified. So that's the point I want to make. Revalue the dollar 2 to 1. Secondly, agriculture. He mentioned about the African snail. I understand $47 million was available in the last government. I hear they spent 47,000. To get rid of those snails take an entire community effort. And because if you don't control it, you would have no food to eat. Besides, I bought cressel one Sunday. When I began to wash it, there were endless snails in it. And some could be so microscopic that you could consume it at your own detriment. CPEP and URP and other such programs, we have to think very carefully and move them into agriculture so that we don't have to import all that amount of food. We'll get more production, we'll be able to satisfy our needs. And 2 minutes enough? Next time I'll talk more. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to bring my some of my issue in my electoral district. Minister, well, I know you know about the situation. Couva South is the second largest corporation in the country, and its size and population. I would like the government to look at the allocation of funding toward the Couva South corporation, because there's similar corporation like Point 14 with about 7 electoral districts or 6 getting more money than Couva South, and we are rural areas where the road infrastructure is bad. So I want the Minister of Local Government to look into that. Our recreation ground is like a forest. Right now, we don't have a tractor. If you go Esperanza, Windsor Park, we don't have a brush cutter to cut these grounds. We have a two-rider mode, the little one walking, and we don't have a transport to move it. Right? Myself and other members of the council have to go and beg a contractor or somebody with a little van to transport these brush cutter, the little rider mode to cut these ground. Another issue, MP, I want to know why the people of South and Central is difficult to get an ADC home. Because a person came to the MP office for 20 years. They apply for an ADC house. And we in Couva, in South and Central, don't get these things.
Councillor, I think we have to put into context what you're saying. I think you're referring to the former administration.
The former, yes.
So for those who are here from the media, these comments are attributed to the former administration.
Yeah, yeah.
Your administration came in a few months ago, just 3 months, short thereof. And since then, I think a lot has happened. So let us be very careful to attribute what happened in the past to those who were responsible for those things. Okay?
All right, MP. Thank you for the correction, but everyone know what I mean.
Oh, no, Councillor. Everyone don't know what you mean, because when you say it here
Yeah.
and it's transmitted outside there, it's as though you're criticizing your administration to which you are a member of the local government. So I'm just asking you for the public record, let us put it squarely and correctly, that the reason why South and Central, that you are raising particularly South and Central, and I spoke about the geographical discrimination. It doesn't only have to do with housing. It has to do with every facet of society that you saw for the last 10 years. And even separate and apart from South and Central, you will even have places on the corridor, places in Eastern Trinidad that were under the control, parliamentary, under the control of the PNM, that they neglected as well because they took their own supporters for granted. And that is why on April 28, North, South, East, and West, and Tobago turned yellow. The situation of Tobago, they turned blue, but it was not red.
So why I was bringing up that point, Minister, when we was in government, we built the Eden Garden development in Calcutta. And if you go inside there, you won't find one person who was, got a house there who belonged to the opposition at the time, right? All went to the former PNM supporters and friends and family. We was campaigning, we was doing a campaign. Couva South executive could tell you that. When we walked there, we had to walk back out because everybody just shut in the door and, you know, we didn't have a support there. We had to leave there and go somewhere else. That's one point. The other thing, I could remember, I in politics long time. And why Couva South, I never see a community center bill under, well, when we was in opposition or when we was in government. And I will tell you why we didn't get it when we was in government. Because the PNM continued building these community centers. And I could remember the last, under Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the minister who in charge, that was Nizam Baksh, right, who was dealing with these things. He said that they have to complete the one that was started before the previous government. Which
Sorry
was
to interrupt, Councillor. You have 2 minutes for everybody, and you have other persons waiting as well, all right?
So what I would like to see is some of, in Couva South, we community center, it's called it a jupa. That is a little, like a cow shed, right? And when the past government is in power, they build some nice community center with some lifts.
Councillor, you're knocking at an open door, but I think the councillors have easier access to me than the public, so I'd ask you to raise those things in private with me. I visited Eden Gardens this afternoon before I came here, so I know what you speak of with respect to the discrimination in terms of allocation, whether it's geographic discrimination. But those things I'm quite familiar with, and I will have a meeting with the councillors to raise the additional concerns that they have. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Good afternoon. All protocols observed. Name Krishna Sankar. I'm employed with the Ministry of Education as a school social worker and as a legal secretary with Eunomia Law Chambers. One of the things that I would like to see in the budget is proper allocation for student support services, especially school social workers. Because the crime situation in this country, all the behavioral issues that we have, we in the school system as social workers, I could tell you it stems from issues in the home. And when we had challenges with finances and salary under the previous administration, where even at one point I was on month-to-month for an entire year, and we have to deal with these things, re-interview between contract breaks and so on, it really affects our productivity and how we can now help our nation children. So now under this new administration, and I know we would have campaigned a lot on reforming student support services, if proper allocation could be given to ensure that we can do our job successfully. Thank you.
That is a very worthwhile suggestion. It is something that we are actively looking into. I think the Honorable Prime Minister has been leading on the front with respect to issues surrounding children in our education system. So holistically, Avidesh, yes, it is something that we are looking at. Separate and apart from the social services, you have the issue of the crime in the schools, and the Prime Minister has already spoken with the Minister of Education to identify the high-risk schools so that come the new academic year, you will have police officers in these high-risk institutions where your children will operate in a safer environment. And also there must be some rehabilitation, and Prime Minister has also asked. So the social services part you've spoken about is not only identifying and treating with the issues within the school and the budgeting for it, but also the rehabilitation. Because then when you have troubled children in schools, you put a system in place, whether they're extracted from the school or not, where do they go from then? And therefore, you must have a system of rehabilitation. You must have an avenue that are available for troubled children in terms of turning them into productive citizens. And I think across the board, social services, in terms of the support from within the schools and other institutions, is something that we will be actively advocating for with respect to proper budgeting. So thank you.
Good evening, ministers. First of all, congratulations on your big victory 3 months ago. My name is Mishri Lachmidial, former executive of this Couva South constituency, presently president of the Balmain United Cricket Club, and a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board. I have a small concern is the lack of, what should I say, the recreations ground is not being attended to in a proper way. I spoke to our councillor, but as I know that for a fact that we have some problems in the Couva Tabakit with the tractor. But nevertheless, I want to go a little further. I think going forward, first of all, I should tell you that I've been in CPEP for quite a number of years, and we assisted in community grounds. So what I would like to do, if ever it continues, the program continues, you should think about getting the program or the management of the program involved in community grounds, especially where sports is concerned, because a lot of these grounds are being currently neglected presently. So having said that, going forward, I think that whenever you're looking at the program, if it's anything, you should get some of these teams or whatever involved in the community aspect of like cricket or sporting grounds in the entire country. Thank you very much.
You're knocking at an open door. I'm happy to hear your voice after so long on these issues. A few days ago, the Minister of Sport toured the constituency of Couva South on my invitation. As you all would recall, the Gilbert Park ground was one of the most premier grounds in all of Trinidad and Tobago. We are looking at rehabilitating that facility as a long-term project, rehabilitating that facility and bringing it up to par so that we can reignite the love of cricket and the usage of that ground to produce more sporting talent in that sphere through the Gilbert Park ground. From there, we went to the Civila facility. As you know, that Civila facility is under the purview of the golf grounds, is under the purview of the Golf Association, while the rest of the facility is under Caroni. It's not under sport as yet. We are going to move towards having that facility placed under the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago, where it is now opened up. We'll do a public-private partnership where we get a private entity. We'll open it up in a very transparent way, receive the bids. The sport company will be responsible for the management of it. But many of us who are from this area knows the value of that Civila compound, whether it was the swimming pool, the cultural and social activities that took place there, as well as the commercial strength that the golf course brings with it. And therefore, if we utilize the grounds at Gilbert Park for both cricket and football, because the ground behind is also available for football, we partner with the Point Lisas Industrial Estate. I, for the life of me, cannot understand. you have Gilbert Park being a premier ground in the constituency. Many of us know the value of what that ground provided for community activity apart from sport. And the Plipdeco and the other and the multinational companies that are on the industrial estate do not partner with Gilbert Park to have activities, events, and provide that corporate social responsibility towards the people of Couva South. So that is something that I am very interested in, and that is why I brought the Minister of Sport to come to those two facilities. We have already reopened the Atto Bolden Stadium for you to utilize on an evening. And that is why when we tell you when UNC wins, everybody wins. We are doing things to benefit the community, to benefit the constituency, and ultimately benefit the country. So we have a long-term plan. Yes, sport is one of them. When Saddam spoke to you about reforestation and we're telling you about CPEP and so on, is that we have a long-term plan of where we see it going. And therefore, we are asking you to partner with us as we've asked the industrial estate. Our sister Vanessa Kusi, the councillor, and Councillor Rajbal Maraj are now members of the Plipdeco board. And therefore, they are our voices inside of that industrial estate, that they are operating from within these multinational companies, millions, if not billions of dollars, but there must be a corporate social responsibility towards the people of Couva South, because you are operating within the constituency of Couva South. Some of them do it. Some of them, I believe, still need to have a greater degree of responsibility and contribution towards the constituency. But we will not spend our time quarreling and complaining about what they're doing and what they're not doing. What we have asked our councillors to do and the Member of Parliament is to engage them. How well we can partner with you for the future in terms of sport, culture, recreation. So Gilbert Park is just one ground. Civila is another facility. We have this site, I think it was the Prime Minister Moody's visit. For the first time, some of you all saw the inside of that cycling velodrome. The Couva swimming pool. We are going to invest in completing that swimming pool, that hopefully by the end of the year, we will have that swimming pool up and running. You know, for quite a while, that swimming pool was left incomplete. And they did not invest the financing in those swimming pools to have it active. So sport, yes, but we must have the facilities available to you. So that is where some of the injection of the funds will come from, but some of them are short-term, but then you also have some long-term projects.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Katyana Amkisun. One of my issues that I would like to see the government do is develop the squatting areas that these young youths are coming up. We have young children are coming up, and we want a proper environment for our younger children. And we are asking that if the social services could visit these areas, because there are a lot of people who are in need and they does not get the need for the children. So we are just asking if we could get it developed with proper access to our home, proper drainage for when rainfall, we does not get flood out, and other infrastructure for the LSA, from LSA.
Just remind me, what area is that?
California.
Before you leave the mic, I want to remind you that one of the pilot projects of Kamala Prasad Bisesa leadership while she was Minister of Legal Affairs, for the first time, she engaged in something called squatter regularization. And that's something close to her heart because she realized dignity in human. When you own a piece of land, there's human dignity in that. And we as a government will ensure that we have land ownership for the majority of the population. So that's something we will definitely look at.
Thank you very much.
I can also tell you from within the constituency of Couva South, one of our stalwarts in the area of land and who worked previously with the Land Settlement Agency, Saddam spoke to you about Mrs. Prasad Bissasa's history in terms of regularization of squatters, etc. One of the persons that was very instrumental in assisting Mrs. Prasad Bissassa when she was legal affairs was Ken Ramnarayan. We have now appointed Mr. Ken Ramnarayan to the LSA board. So we have that resource base right here in the constituency that will be able to help many persons across the board. But Ken has the institutional knowledge of how to get it done because he's been there before. So Ken, they'll be knocking at your doors.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Just a reminder, just to state your name and where you're from before giving your question to ministers.
Good evening, honorable MPs and ministers and everyone else gathered here. My contribution this evening, my name is Jeremy from Couva, and my contribution is as it relates to noise pollution. Now, the Honorable Prime Minister would have gave her commitment numerous times on her plan to tackle noise pollution, as we are all aware. And she said that this will be taking place in the upcoming parliamentary term. Now, I just want to give persons an idea of how serious the situation is. A person's right to sleep and to rest is just as important as your right to food and shelter. Is a basic human survival need, as you all may know. And currently there are persons throughout this country and even in Couva South who they do not have any regard for persons' right to rest and sleep. They play music indiscriminately, day, night, weekends, 1 a.m., 2 p.m., 3 a.m. It is unacceptable. It is unacceptable. Sometimes you try to reason with them and they get more spiteful, they raise the volume. Right? So although the Prime Minister gave a commitment, I just want to add some additional points to it. Currently, the charge for hunting in the closed season is $100,000, and I have no issue with that. The charge for being a public nuisance, which falls under noise pollution, is $1,500, and the police don't even charge persons for it. So how could you put a charge $100,000 to protect a iguana and a guti and $1,500 for a human life, right? It doesn't balance. So I am asking that you all have strict, very, very strict penalties for noise pollution, right? The standing ground legislation, I'm seeing penalties such as $500,000, $750,000, which is commendable. I agree with it, right? Noise pollution, when a person enters a home, right? When an invader enters a home, they could only interfere with that home at that given time, right? Persons engaging in noise pollution simultaneously affects the entire neighborhood, the entire community, right? You have persons who are working, they need to get rest to go to work the next day. Children who need to study, they need to sleep so that they'll be attentive in school, right? The elderly have babies, and these persons have no regard for anyone. So I am strongly suggesting, right, in the upcoming budget that the government perhaps implements a noise pollution unit in the TTPS, have a public education campaign with regards to noise pollution, and also raise the fine. Some of the excess, some of the monies collected from these penalties could even go towards the Children's Life Fund and other important things. So I urge you all to please be quick with these laws. And although it will be in the upcoming parliamentary term, I'm pleading with you all, if you all can do something about it in the interim, right? We are currently in a SOE, so it may be a good opportunity to put something in place, because when the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned her intention to tackle these bars, the fetes, right, the music trucks, persons took that as a license to make more noise than ever. They are playing music more often than ever. They are increasing the volume, right, all hours of the night, and it's unacceptable. So if you all could please, in the interim, do something about it, I'm sure the entire country will be appreciative of it. Thank you.
Just a reminder, keep your comments and suggestions to 2 minutes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharma Suknaran. I'm from Couva South. I want to deal straight to the budget. I wouldn't be long. We have a lot of grants being offered to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And
as the minister spoke, my member of parliament spoke a while ago and said, if you're receiving a $2,000 grant, how are you going to pay $2,500 rent? And where are you going to buy food from? We have issues where to access the grant. Let's look at the school grant, for instance. We have a single parent who is working for a salary just enough to provide food for her children. And she cannot access the food grant because she is employed, minimum wage. I want you to look at the legislation of these grants that have been offered, and if you could change the legislation so that we have people like single parent who could afford, who could access the grant. And, you know, so people come to us in Couva South here and they tell us the distress they have been having because of certain issues, they cannot access the grant. You have to follow out a long, drawn-out process, and you have to have all the different, fill it out with all the different agreements in the grant. I want to deal specifically with the pension. You know, the last regime said, if you have more than $25,000 in the bank, you cannot access the pension. They changed the pension from the pension to that is also called a grant. I want the government now to return it to a pension and not a grant. And it must be able to be easily accessible. We have people who have been investigated. They apply for pension, they cannot access the pension. Imagine you're going to an investigation and talking to the neighbors to find out if this fella doing some work. Some people have to do some work to survive, but they cannot access, they turn 65, and yet they cannot access the grant. So look at the legislation. And another thing is that you include NIS with the pension. People work all their life and they pay NIS. That is their thing to get an NIS grant. Why include it with the $3,500 pension? You reduce their pension because they are receiving an NIS. So look at the legislation, see how we could improve it, increase it, and so that our elderly, who we expect to get their votes, to try to access the pension grant as easily as possible. Thank you very much.
Mr. Sharma, I can tell you that the Minister of the People and Social Development, Minister Vandana Mohit, I believe was working weekends over weekends to ensure that they should clear the backlog for that senior citizen pension through the NIS side, through the immigration side, because as we say, we are a caring government, especially taking care of the elderly. So that's a good point that you have raised.
Good afternoon, everyone, and all protocols observed. My name is Tracy Cooper, and I'm the president of an autistic group in Couva. And the point that I would like to make and also see in the budget presentation is inclusive education, but not only inclusive, sustainable inclusive education. I heard the Honorable Barry Padarath spoke about the laptop program. I would like to see our autistic students also have access to the laptop program. I would also like to see a sensory play park in the community of Couva, catering to students on the spectrum. I would also like to see support for teachers in the form of training the autistic child. And I would also like to see an increase in the grant for the various therapies. Most parents come to me on a daily basis complaining about the fact that therapies are very expensive, it's costly, and the children needed therapy in order to function. So I'm seeing that part of the behavioral problems that we are experiencing in schools, it's because we are missing the diagnosis of autistic children. So I'm hoping that with this contribution, I will be able to see, the government doing something in the area of autism. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cooper. Let me deal with the sensory play park first. I plan on putting a sensory play park at this constituency office. So you're knocking at an open door. I think my staff will tell you earlier today I shared that news with them that I want a play park, a sensory play park there. It's often said that those who live it know it. And I have seen firsthand the lack of support for children who are afflicted with conditions like autism. And this is a matter that we spoke about in the general election campaign where in the past, maybe because of capacity, lack of understanding, maybe because it's novel and new, many within the education system, even parents, thought that their children were hardened. They didn't like to go to school. They don't want to listen. Not understanding that there are children within our education system and within our society that are yet to be diagnosed, that go undetected. And sometimes these are very severe cases. And in the election campaign and prior to that, the Honorable Prime Minister spoke about detection, evaluation of our children. And I know for a fact that the Ministry of the People, Social Development and Family Services have been mandated through Senator Dr. Natalie Chaitan Maharaj to look at that in terms of how do we start getting through our education system and not only limiting it, because sometimes you can diagnose the children when they are toddlers. And the technology is so advanced. I remember when my own child was born, she was born abroad, but they were able to check to see if she can hear, if she can see right away at birth. And the technology is so advanced now that how do we utilize that technology to give our children a greater chance of a quality life by early detection? And therefore you are knocking at an open door. Maybe if you would like, I can put you in direct contact with Senator Chaitan Maharaj, who is a parliamentary secretary in that ministry. But it is something that we are very much committed to. And you say that in the context of a budget consultation, and I can tell you if you're looking for a champion for that cause, you have one in Saddam and I right here. And it is something that we will definitely take back and address in terms of how do we roll out the detection and the support. Because I have seen it firsthand with respect to the lack of support for therapy. So you talk about the detection, which is the angle I spoke to you about, Dr. Chaitan Maharaj, in terms of the evaluation, whether it's through the schools, whether it's through any other mechanism earlier apart from the schools. But it's also the therapeutical support. Therapy for children who are afflicted with autism in Trinidad is ridiculously expensive. And you don't have a lot of subject matter experts in terms of people who can treat and deal with these matters. Fortunately for us here in Couva South, we have a very good behavioral therapist in Devin Maharaj. But again, it's just a few of them. And therefore, if we can look towards harnessing a systematic approach. I'll tell you this, when I first went to the constituency of Princestown, before coming to Couva South, they did a census, and the largest, in terms of the data, catchment of children with special needs still continues to be in the constituency of Couva South, Princestown. And there was a family with twins, and the children suffered from cerebral palsy. One was more advanced than the other. We were in opposition, and the former administration had cut all the support where cerebral palsy parents received a stipend to stay at home and take care of their children, get the training, etc., so that they are equipped with the skills to train their children who are afflicted with these conditions. And I could have accepted that there was no support from the state, or we could have done something about it. And through my own constituency, we raised funds to send them for therapy. The children were toddlers. And one night, I went to the mandir. It was around Hanuman Jayanti. And to my great astonishment, the child had surgery to correct the feet so the child was able to walk. One of them can now speak. And they made progress, because the problem wasn't that the child could not be corrected, you know. The problem is that there was no financial support for many of these communities, particularly rural communities where people just simply don't know where to go. I remember one parent told me when she realized her child was autistic. I said, "Did you get his child diagnosed?" And she said, "I don't have money to go to the hospital to take him because we live in Piparo." And to me, that was heartbreaking because it could have meant that the child could have gotten support earlier. But because of the restraints, the financial constraints that they endure, they don't know where to turn to, who to turn to, and where to go. So you're knocking at an open door. And I told you about the child that I saw, the twins, that night. And what ran through my mind, I said to myself, I said, in the case of a parent, if you have one child who is a special needs child, it's a difficult situation to be in. But can you imagine having two? And what really amazed me is that despite those challenges, they found themselves there that night in the temple, thanking God and not living in despair. They found a way. And I think apart from what we have discussed in terms of the support, there must be a greater educational thrust, especially in rural communities, of how do you get help. And I think, it's probably, Saddam, something that we need to talk to more as members of parliament, that we can embark on some sort of educational program to go into these communities in terms of advocating how do you access the help that you need. Because many of them, as I've said before, simply don't know where to turn to. Because the facilities and the support is so limited. And therefore, I will ask for you to stay back, for you to meet with Dr. Chaitan Maraj to see how we can roll out a lot more of these to reach a lot more children, not only just for autism, but for all special needs. Yes?
Good night, everyone. All protocols observed. I am Usha Prasad Lautu, Couva South, Macbean specifically. I speak as an educator for the last 13 years, both private sector and now with the government, as well as a director with multiple NGOs, specifically in the area of social integration, educational research, and gender affairs. Firstly, I would like to start by thanking my fellow constituent for bringing up a point that I had earlier planned to speak about, special needs education and the need for the mainstream classroom teacher to have more training or continuous training in that regard. So I must commend our Honorable MP for addressing in detail such a plan going forward for such. Another point that I would like to raise, kind of in the same light, would be for more partnerships or for the bolstering of partnerships with NGOs to provide support and help to bridge gaps in education where we have the digital divide and socioeconomic disparities. And let's see a more practical, inclusive, and a nation-building investment in education through partnerships with NGOs. That's my contribution. Thank you. Good night.
Okay, good night, everyone. My name is Nirad Maharaj. I am also, just like many of you, in Couva South. I am 18 years old, and I like to talk a little bit on my generation. But first of all, Mr. Minister Hosein, I read up a bit about you before, just in my own time as an aspiring lawyer. I read about your journey going to UE Cave Hill and all those different things that you represented. Is very motivating. Your inspiration to me. Minister Padarath, same to you. The resilience you show in the government is outstanding. It's wonderful. So I just want to thank both of you for your works. As you said, the champions that we have here with us today. But to get on topic, a lot of what I wanted to say was already spoken by the previous speakers. There are a lot of children who need help. I myself volunteer as a primary school tutor, and there are some kids who need that type of help that you all are talking about, and they are unable to get it because we don't have the funding to provide to them specifically. But on another topic that I wanted to talk about, I am 18 years old. I am going into upper six, right? For me, one of the main things that I am looking at right now are Trinidad and Tobago government scholarships, right? And this is a topic that I wanted to bring up because in the year 2020, under the previous leadership, it was announced that the government scholarships being awarded to people on the A level would be reduced from 400 to 100. And that is what I remember the previous leadership for. For me, because that affects me the most, for taking away our scholarships, our opportunities to be rewarded for our academic merit. Now, I understand there are certain things in place, such as bursaries, which you can apply to. But the point of the scholarships was to award academic merit. And there are many people my age who I know who are able to make it to the merit list on the CAPE level, who are looking to make it to the merit list. And they were unable to score a scholarship. And these individuals were offered certain areas, certain places, very high academic institutions around the world. And they were unable to go there because they were unable to, they did not win that opportunity. They were not granted that opportunity because they were so rare and so few. Because there are 10 different subject categories you could get for that scholarship. And then you have to divide that in two again, one for additional, one for national. So each category, there are only 5 people in the entire year who can get a government scholarship for local and one for abroad. Now I know there is no Harvard, there is no Oxford, there is no Cambridge in Trinidad and Tobago, but there is the United National Congress. And I believe now that we have a new leadership here, it is my hope that bringing this issue to not just to the minister's attention, but to everybody's attention more, it is my hope and my belief that you all will hopefully provide once more for your upcoming students, your youths, and I really, really hope that that previous number, that all-time high of 400 scholarships going down to 100 can be brought back up again, whether it be through improvement on the current system or through reform. That is just an issue I wanted to bring to your awareness, and I really hope something could be done on it. Thank you for your time.
After listening to that contribution, something tells me that we don't only have a budding lawyer, we may also have a budding politician. Well, thank you. We will certainly raise those issues.
Hi, good night, Your Honorable Mr. Padarath, Mr. Hussein. My issue is that I live in Couva. My name is Rohan Gangadin. I live in Couva by the Holy Faith Convent. The land that I'm living on right now is owned by the Anglican Church. And we're having some problem with them. They want us to pay today's value for the land, and we're there over 80 years. And I would like to know if you all could reinstate the tenancy agreement rights. Thank you.
Good afternoon, all protocol observed. My name is Veda Maharaj. I am an executive member of the Youth Inspiration Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm also a third-year medical student. My question to the honorable ministers is, there are many tertiary education graduates in Trinidad and Tobago who have degrees, but they lack the experience needed to apply for government jobs. Can allocations be made to have internship programs to provide the youths with these experiences? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm very happy you raised that, because in the morning under my Ministry of Public Utilities, I will be launching an internship program for students from UWI and other tertiary education institutions. There will be over 300 internships offered to these students. Members of Parliament will be contacted by TSTT. So you will be harnessing first the technology, the artificial intelligence, etc. spheres with respect to these internships. And I'm almost certain my other colleagues across the other government ministries will also be looking at a similar approach in terms of, may not be as many as I am able to offer. My ministry has a lot of state enterprises under its purview. And therefore it will vary in terms of the number of internships and so on. So I'm almost certain that yes, that is something that we will definitely look into some of the other areas, but as of tomorrow, there will be about 300 being offered through the Ministry of Public Utilities.
The Honorable Mr. Barry Padarath, Honorable Saddam Hosein, ladies and gentlemen, good night. My name is Shobha Maraj, And I am here this afternoon to advocate for early childhood care and education. I am a school principal, but has been in the education system for the past 35 years. I have worked in early childhood straight to tertiary education, but I'm advocating in the budget today for not a curriculum early childhood guide, but a structured early childhood curriculum that allows the teachers to understand exactly what is to be taught in our early childhood schools. Currently, it's just a guide, and many of them are not trained enough to be able to teach the children in the schools exactly what is to be taught. I want to say too in this guide that I would like to see aspects of human values in that guide. Honesty, integrity, love, compassion, love for country. So that should be the foundation of that early childhood curriculum. All right, so I thank you, and I hope to see that in the budget and jump on the bandwagon. Thank you.
I thought that face looked familiar. Ms. Shoba is one of those principals that oversaw one of the primary schools in this country that excelled in both academics and extracurricular activities. And if it was a model school in the southeastern region, it was the Robert Village Hindu School where she served as the principal there. And that school excelled tremendously. Now we have her in the catchment area of Central. So Ms. Shoba, it is something that definitely I would also ask for your involvement in, if you would agree, to assist and serve, and we'll speak more about it. But exactly what you are speaking of, it is something that we are open to. And I always advocate both for government and in the denominational schools. But coming from a denominational school, you see the right balance, whether it's Hindu, Muslim, Christian, across all of the denominational schools, you see the right balance of the extracurricular activities being harnessed with the academics. And I think it's a very good approach where you're talking about the early intervention of inculcating some of the things that we have lost over a period of time, returning especially through the early childhood system, through this curriculum and the syllabus. So yes, it is something that we are open to. And I may have to put you in touch with the right people because I'm not the Minister of Education. But I'm definitely sure that the Minister of Education will be, as an educator himself, interested in this. So thank you.
Yeah, MP, good night. My name is Amit Mohan. I would just like to talk about the food card, right? The mean system for the food card, the PNM version of the mean system for the food card should be abolished because it have people that do not deserve our food card and they have our food card. Wealthy people and the poor, genuine people that need our food card cannot access it. So I just my contribution. Thanks.
Mr. Mohan, if the Minister of the People, Social Development and Family Services stand up and tell you what she discovered in the Ministry of the People, Social Development and Family Service regarding the food card, it will be mind-boggling. However, yes, it is under review, and more will be said about that in time for the budget, so I will pass on the information to the Honourable Minister.
Good night, MPs and everyone. I am Michael from, thank you. I am Michael from California, a year 2 student at NESC doing diploma in ITNS. And I want to talk a little, I couldn't sit down and was hearing the fact that you were talking about technology, right? So I want to know that what can be implemented to help with technology basically, meaning that I'm nervous. So watching on news and everything, right? You're watching that these infrastructures as in First Citizens and others, how to say it, boy, websites getting hacked into from these scammers and, you know, like people who going into your information sort of thing. So I wanted to know what can be implemented to help with these things. And also, as a future graduate, because I'm graduating just now, what are set for graduates who are finishing school in September and what is put in place for our students who graduated just now?
Good night, everyone. Just a reminder, we are wrapping up shortly, so if anybody else has any questions, please join the line as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Good evening, honorable ministers. I think the national insurance system needs fixing. You would have people who would have contributed 1,800 contributions, 2,000 contributions, and die just before 65 or before 60. And all they get is $7,500 for funeral expenses. There are people who begin to get their national insurance, they into 1 year or so, they die, and then it stops. I think there should be some guarantee period for the pension. Maybe 10 years, so that if a person dies for a period of 10 years, the full pension should be paid or a lump sum discounted for the net present value. I am a pensioner, so I am happy that the Prime Minister has indicated that pension will be tax-free. However, to me, that system could be abused as well. So I would suggest that there be some limit on the amount of pension that should be tax-free. Maybe $20,000 per month. I think anybody getting a pension over that doesn't really need any tax benefit. I am aware that there are a lot of statutory bodies that have not provided audited financial statement for several years. And I think this is something that the government should seriously look at, because they're spending taxpayers' money and they're not accounting for how the money is being spent. The Central Audit Committee was mentioned before. I would like to suggest that that body is well staffed, so that sufficient audits will be conducted so that we can have the assurance that what is happening with the forestry division does not happen in a number of other organizations. Thank you very much.
Your concerns are noted, and we'll take some of them to the Minister of Finance.
Good evening. My name is Jasodra Rampasad. I am from Macbean in Couva. MP Hussain, you spoke about the laptop program and mentioned briefly that textbooks will also be uploaded. Are you able to provide further details? Particularly, will the textbooks be uploaded in time for this new school term, because people are already in the process of purchasing books? And then how is it going to be rolled out? So, for example, is it going to be all Form 1s this year, and then next year Form 1s and 2s, etc.? Thank you very much.
Pleasant good night to everyone. Pleasant good night to two of our very brilliant members of Parliament of the United National Congress, both very young and very brilliant. My name is Sharon Badalahue, and as a local government representative, I want to touch on two very important and crucial issues that affects rural, local government. Under our regime in 2010 to 2015, under our caring Prime Minister, I remember she had a program called Direct Impact Program. The Direct Impact Program, which really narrates down to persons severely being affected by natural disasters. Natural disasters being fire, flooding, land slippage, the house being damaged through landslip, etc. And the tedious process to get a grant to do any repairs on their homes or to start rebuilding is very, very frustrating. So when you suffer a natural disaster, you suffer infrastructural damage, but then you also suffer mental sickness, because the frustration to go up and down. And your family is being displaced because if your house is damaged by fire or natural disaster or flooding, you have to seek shelter somewhere else. So I would really like to see the accessing of these grants for natural disasters be taken with a little more seriousness and a more direct impact to serve natural disasters. The other social aspect I would like to touch on is unplanned disability. Whereas you have a breadwinner having an amputation of his foot or hand, but he was the breadwinner of the house and is unable now to accumulate that income that he was having while he was in his full capacity. The tedious process to access a grant for disability is a real challenge. So I would really like to see in the budget that we have that program put in place for direct impact through local government. Thank you.
All right, good evening to all. I'm Ramparas Mahadev. I'm a teacher. I also have a master's in occupational health and safety. And my concern tonight, specifically to you, MP Saddam, it pertains to consumer affairs and the quality of food that we are consuming. So a lot of pesticides, fungicides are banned and red flagged all over the world, but yet we consistently and persist to use those type of chemicals in our food and food production in the country. So I think we should take a look at that, as MP Barry said, safety first. And safety isn't just with crime. Safety, it has a more intricate part to play in terms of health and food production. So I'd like to see more testing and these things being regulated. Thank you.
Good night, everyone. Sorry, good night, everyone. After the guy in gray, that's it for questions. Thank you.
Good night. My name is Shirley Supasad. Good night, Mr. Barry and Mr. Suram. I just want to touch on pension. The reason is that I had paid my contribution in order to get my NIS, right? Time now for you to get a pension, they cut it down in half. Meaning I get a widow fund, no man. Radbalams again, two widow fund. But I only get one widow fund, which is $750, right? And the point I'm making here, they cut me down to $1,500 pension. And that is not fair because I had contributed to NIS. My husband had contributed to NIS so that I would be able to get my widow's fund. So I find that you need to look into that. And I don't have to raise the level or whatever. Thank you.
Since you raised, you had two widow funds. Which one of the husband?
Good night to our ministers. My concerns is with the pointless. Good night to the ministers. My concern is with the pointless industrial estates. On a daily basis, sometimes there's emergency jobs, which would be considered like turnarounds with shutdowns. And when you have to call employees out as a contractor, their response is, I don't have a valid P card. Sometimes their certs are expired for specific training. And when you ask them, why is this way, they would say, I don't have money to renew a P card. Simple thing like a P card. So I don't know if the government could probably look into that instead of people having to pay for this. It's like $250. Yeah, and there are lots of employees who would give us this response. And myself with other associates, we are actually willing to train and certify persons in other areas of health and safety. Thank you.
Good night. My name is Gregory Griffith, Calcutta Settlement Road, number 2, Freeport.
What I ask in this question, what you all are in place for die-hard gardeners who squatting? Because since I small, my grandparents planting, and why is them planting? I planting string bean and thing from the kitchen. So I want to know if I squatting on a piece of land, if you all will just come and take it back and you all will try to encourage me, or what it have in that area. Because a lot of people don't like to plant, they're lazy. And I love to plant. Everybody who know me in Freeport here, everybody who know me in Freeport, they know I love to plant.
So I take it that you know somebody who's squatting on state land.
I squatting on state land and planting right now.
So
I want to know if when you all come, if you all going and just move me or chop down my thing, I don't know
I'll tell you
what you all will
something.
do.
I'll tell you something. I think the issue that you want to raise too is one, land tenure, and two, access to farmer's badge also, right?
Yeah,
the
I
first
will,
issue with respect to the land tenure, that is something that we are reviewing throughout the entire ministry. It takes very long. There are a lot of persons who we acknowledge that are in fact planting on state lands. They are producing food for the country, but they are not able to access some of the government services such as the subsidy because they can't get a farmer's badge, correct?
Yes.
Because you have to show land tenure. We are currently reviewing the policy with respect to that on terms of those persons on state lands for agricultural purposes, and also to make it easier, quicker, and more just and equitable for persons to receive farmer's badge in Trinidad and Tobago.
I could say one thing again. Well, I squatting right in the
No,
back.
I don't need to know where you're squatting, right? We'll talk after. But what I'm telling you is that we are reviewing the policy, okay?
Yeah. One more thing. The reason why I say that, because here, when I now came in, I hear somebody say about they coming to review something on this side. That is the reason I say that. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I feel I'll have to visit you now.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for your contributions from the floor. What we will be doing is that we'll be putting together a paper coming out from this, a report, where this will now inform the party, will then make recommendations based on the collective, because this is happening across all constituencies. And there was a discussion as to whether or not this is a government event or who event this is. I think you can see Member of Parliament, yes, but also this is under the auspices of the United National Congress. So I want to thank all of you who have turned out this evening. I did not imagine we would have had such a mammoth crowd, but the level of engagement coming from the constituency of Couva South over the past number of years, through the executive, the councillors, and you, the constituents, have really informed a lot of what we intend on putting into the budget. But as I've told you, what the focus is in terms of the first year, what we are able to realistically achieve, and then set medium-term and long-term goals. So we are already starting to see some of these short-term measures come into effect over the next couple weeks and months. Saddam has already indicated he will be back in Couva South, hopefully not any other constituency in Central, but Couva South, with respect to the Caroni lands, which was an issue during the general election and before. So Saddam, we look forward to that visit, where one of the topics of discussion has also been about persons who've passed away and were unable to transfer the legal title of the lands to those, their loved ones, their beneficiaries, etc. And what we plan on doing is assisting through the Member of Parliament. We'll do these legal clinics, etc., where you have to go through probate, letters of administration, etc., to lend that support to you who are beneficiaries of these lands but don't have the means to get the letters of administration, probate, etc. done. So, and that was one of the mandates from the Honorable Prime Minister to members of Parliament of the UNC to ensure we provide that support. We have already done tours across Couva South in terms of the areas that are still being impacted on with respect to a reliable supply of water. We have made some significant progress, but at the end of our first term, we must ensure that constituencies across the length and breadth of this country have a 24/7 access supply of water. The other thing has to do with some of the issues that you raised with respect to pensions, social support, etc. Those are policy decisions that Saddam and I just can't sit and say, yes, it is going to happen or what is going to happen. We are now going to have to go into discussion with respect to our colleagues and the cabinet in terms of what can be done, but we certainly will raise the concerns with respect to those of you who were NIS contributors and how that has impacted on your senior citizen pensions. The issue of healthcare as well. I want to tell you that we are going to embark in partnership with Prime Minister Modi and the Indian government through the Indian High Commissioner, a prosthetic limb camp. And we in Couva South will play an integral part of that, where persons who are in need of these prosthetic limbs will be able to come and access it right here out of the office of the Member of Parliament for Couva South. I'm sure they will extend it to Saddam and others. But those are the things that we are looking at in terms of the short term of what we can assist you with directly ahead of the budget in terms of bringing a greater degree of relief. So water, education, through the laptop program, through the schools. We've also spoken to you about crime in terms of some of the measures that will be rolled out. So when they tell you that the UNC had no crime plan and so on, they're damn wrong. We really don't, well, I wouldn't want to say we had no crime plan. We have an anti-crime plan because we are not in the business of committing crime. Right? So we are interested in the anti-crime measures. Saddam has spent some time going through that with you. And then as we roll out some of the constituency matters, we intend on having a back-to-school drive. We'll work through our councillors to ensure that we have the best participation of those that are really in need of it. We'll also be having massive Ganesh Utsav celebrations out of this constituency. We'll be donating the largest Ganesh Murti in all of Trinidad and Tobago, where we will include all of our mandirs. I see Ms. Shobha coming from a Hindu school is smiling. But it's the community engagements, and we will also do that for Christmas. We will do that for Eid. So all of our national celebrations, I think on the 2nd of August, actually, we'll be having the classical singing. It's been postponed. We'll advise you of the date of when that event will take place. So a lot is happening separate and apart from what we discussed here this evening to keep our constituency active, to keep the constituency alive. And from September, you will see me knocking at your doorsteps because I intend on walking with my councillors every last Sunday in the month. From 8 o'clock in the morning to midday, we will be going to the constituencies. In the case of Couva South, we will be coming to your community. So therefore, we can engage with you further to see what progress has been made with respect to some of the issues that you have raised today, some of the issues that you have raised with me as your Member of Parliament on a Wednesday when you come to visit. So I want to thank you for your understanding. I want to thank you for your support, your love, and your encouragement. I always say it is not an easy road to walk, but the Prime Minister always reminds us, nobody asks you to take this job. You went and asked people to vote for you. And therefore, now that you have put us into government, our days and our nights are very long, but our backs are very broad. But I can only continue to do what I do. Saddam can only continue to do what he does. And for those of you, I don't ever disrespect my constituency by taking a phone call unless it is the Honorable Prime Minister. So do not think that I'm sitting here on the phone and it is any sweet talk going on the phone. It is instructions down the line from the Honorable Prime Minister. So I want to thank you for your understanding and your support We will re-engage you in terms of some of the things, as I said, we intend on rolling out, and you can look forward to hearing about your contributions as we prepare for the national budget, but understanding what we have inherited, what we will do in the short term, what we'll promise to do in the medium term, and what are the long-term projects, both in Couva South and all of Trinidad and Tobago. So I want to thank my colleague, MP Saddam Hosein, for joining us this evening. We have already booked him for Stand Your Ground, which I know many of you are interested in with respect to airing your views on this Stand Your Ground legislation, which will be historic in terms of taking that legislation into Parliament and putting some power in your hands in terms of addressing the criminal elements attempting to come into your castle, come into your home. So brothers and sisters, I want to thank the staff. I want to thank all of you who have turned out, the councillors and the voters who have kept the confidence in us as your new administration. We have promised to keep you engaged and to help you as much as we can to make the quality of your life better. But we can only do that if you keep the faith, you keep strong, and you stand with your Honorable Prime Minister and your great party, the United National Congress. I thank you. May God continue to bless you, and may God continue to bless our great party and our great nation of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you. I think there are some refreshments. I'm seeing a truck outside, and please avail yourself of some refreshments before you get home.